This is the Uprising Revival channel. Welcome to today's show. With the reaction that we're seeing with everything going on in Bagelville and the sympathy towards Bagelville, this is the exact event that they need to usher in what is called Noahide laws. Now, you probably heard about that in the past. I believe I've covered it in one or two videos in the past. Because of censorship in the past on all topics related to Noahide laws, the agenda, and of course, the certain books that these people read, which end with the word mud, and of course the people I'm referring to are the synagogue of Satan. It's been hard to cover these types of topics, and now especially it will be hard, but I'm going to put this video up, and obviously I'm not going to show anything on the screen, so just listen and understand what the Noahide laws are, because Christians are going to be deceived by the Noahide laws, because they're going to think that they're the Ten Commandments in a sense. They're going to think that this has something to do with the world becoming more Christian and having more morals. This is part of the deception that's going on. So the Noahide laws forbid idolatry, blasphemy, murder, theft, sexual immorality, and animal cruelty, okay? In other words, what these are specifically, they tie into a lot of the global agendas that we hear about, specifically with eating meat, things along those lines, with surveillance state. These are all done by deception. These are things that are going to be put in place by deception, and these are going to lead to the demise of Christianity. What you're seeing right now is the full-on assault on other people's religious beliefs and the convincing of society that the people who believe in this specific religion are wicked, bad people and need to be eliminated, that they're not able to function in society. These are the narratives that they're giving out there. They're not able to function in society without having their religious beliefs involved, and their religious beliefs infringe on everyone else. But the reality is that's completely inverted, because these are the people who are pushing into everyone's homes. These are the people who are trying to control and destroy our way of life. And again, this is why over so much and so many time periods, these people are constantly outcasted, because they're the reason for everything you see that the Democrats are doing, where they're trying to get inside your home, control your thermostat, control the way you live. And eventually this is all going to happen, unless, of course, people fight against it. But they're using great deceptions on many people out there. So what you need to know about the Noahide laws, when you hear those things, right, you automatically will go, oh, well, that sounds like it's something that's great. And the UN came out in 2013, okay? This is how we know that this is part of Agenda 2030, because this is around the same time period when Agenda 2030 was announced in 2015. They really were cloaking all of those agendas that they had tied into the Noahide laws. So in 2013, the United Nations met with all different nations at their headquarters, their UN headquarters in New York City, for a conference that was called One People, One World. Okay, and they pretended that this, as they always do with the One People, One World, this is a deception of love and tolerance. And of course, this is something that's going to have to do with world peace, right? Remember, the Bible talks about how they're going to call for peace. In 1 Thessalonians 5:3, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. We know that the Antichrist is also going to come in the name of peace. This is part of the deception that's going on, right? So when you hear the Noahide laws, you hear the United Nations tied into this, and they're using narratives like one people, one world, okay? Understand this, that the books that these specific people read, the Bagels are exempt from these laws, because their teachings specifically tell them that they can commit murder, that they can commit blasphemy, that they can commit animal cruelty. It even promotes, as I've covered over on the website Uprising Revival over the years, it promotes immorality perversion-wise. I can't use that word because it's another trigger word here, but it also promotes that word philia. It promotes that inside their books as well. In fact, their religion condones it. It doesn't condemn it, it condones it. So think about what we're seeing in the world right now with all of this disgusting stuff and immorality going on. These are the people that are behind it. This is why I've been yelling about it for a long time. And in the beginning, we were able to talk about it here, and then eventually we weren't allowed to. And now with this going on, it's really important to get focused back in on who is behind everything, right? Because now we're going to see, if we're ushering towards World War III, we are going to see the ushering in of these Noahide laws. And this will be the beginning of the end for Christians, the beginning of a persecution of Christians. Now, in their book, one that ends in the word har, okay, it starts with the word Zoolander, but minus the lander, 128b, it says, Christians who worship Jesus are idolaters. So these laws that you hear, which will sound fine on paper because you'd be like, oh, well, I can't argue against some of this stuff except maybe the eating of meat. of course, they'll say, oh, well, there's not going to be theft and all this stuff. Remember, they're enabling this in this society. They're the ones who are enabling it. They're behind all of this chaos you see in America. They control America. They're behind all these things, right? When we hear about idol worshipers, we all agree, oh, well, we don't, idol worshiping is bad. The Bible tells us this. But look how they twist it, because in their books, it talks about us being idol worshipers because we worship Jesus, okay? Other things in their books say a bagel may lie and perjure to condemn a Christian. All these things, so all these rules and laws, and then when you put them into the court system, even more than they are now, the Bible mentions specifically in the book of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 17 through 18, but beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues, and ye shall be brought before governors and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them and the Gentiles. So keep in mind the destruction of our current system, right? While it is going to look like a communist system that they call socialist system, it is going to be completely run by the bagels. And this system is going to benefit all the bagels, and everybody else is going to be eliminated eventually by these people. And the Bible warns us about world courts and things like that. So the world court is going to enforce the Noahide laws. And even in September of 2019, the certain group hosted a major conference in Jerusalem that was called the Emerging Organization of 20 Nations. The conference lasted for a few days and was attended by 70 world leaders. These 70 diplomats met to hear lectures and participate in discussions that focused on the global implementation of the Noahide laws. The conference also discussed plans for a global government and world currency. However, the major focus was the establishment of an international court. Okay, so this is one of the reasons you see the destruction of the court here in the United States of America. What do we see every single day? How corrupt the court is. The court's doing this, deliberately doing these things. Because the people in power, Republican and Democrat, these people in power all serve underneath the flag of Bagel Land. Okay? So they're working to destroy this. That's why they went out of their way to reverse Roe v. Wade. It's to drive people to the point of wanting the entire system abolished and then bringing in a fair system. They're going to convince people that this is the fair system. And Christians are going to go along with this system, not realizing that this system is going to be put in place for the destruction of Christianity. And what you're seeing is a precursor right now. What they're doing with this specific group of people. And these people, a lot of whom are innocent, right? But they're pretending and claiming that they're the innocent ones. They're the reason for all the problems. Why do you think those people have such a problem with them? Why do you think a lot of us who are awake, who are Christians, have a problem with them? Because they've been doing this forever and ever. You know how I always say about these celebrities, and I talk about, Bill Gates, et cetera, and I say, well, why don't they just keep their money, go on an island somewhere and stop and leave everybody alone? These specific people in Bagelville are the reason for that, because these specific bagels want total control over your life. They're obsessed with it. They truly believe in their minds that we are nothing more than cattle, and we don't deserve to have anything here on earth, that everything deserves to be theirs. And if we don't oblige by their beliefs, then we'll all be annihilated, and we all should be and deserve to be. So what's more ironic about all of this is that as this deception occurs, think about all the people out there who hate Christians, right? All these groups with LG, right? How they all serve underneath one another, how they all work hand in hand with one another against Christianity, against all of us. And these people go, well, religion is the reason for this problem. Religion's the reason for that. This is something that they're going to agree on. That's how stupid these people are. Because they're going to see Christians as bad, and these people who eat bagels are going to come out and say, well, we're all for those flags being flown, etc. Not to mention the fact that you can see that rainbow flag used in the logo for a lot of the side groups of the Noahide laws. You think that's a coincidence? Of course it's not a coincidence. So this is a warning to people about what is to come. The system that's going to be replaced is going to be replaced with this system. A lot of us have known this for a long time. And when the UN came forward in 2013 and talked about this and actually met to discuss this, and then in 2019 even furthered it with world leaders getting together, what they're trying to do and plan is how and what do they need to do to get this implemented, to get people to accept it and to agree with it. So while on paper it sounds like for Christians, they're going to say, well, this sounds good. I mean, this is going to bring in order. It's going to bring in world peace. It's going to bring in the destruction of anybody who worships Jesus. There's a reason I've been warning about their books for so long, because in those books, it talks about the demise and destruction and murder of Christians, the ending of Christians. And what do we read in the Bible about the persecution and all the things that Christians end up going through? Well, where do you think that's going to come directly from? The enemy. And it's the enemy from within, because Christians have accepted this specific group, not realizing if you actually look. And again, on the website, somebody posted a perfect breakdown of it, of all the seeds and where they came from and how this is aligned, so that people out there who are biblical scholars could even understand where they come from. And that's over on the website. It was a great post by a subscriber over there who just showed it, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't understand the bloodline, where this goes with Esau. Let me see. And people post stuff and share this stuff so you can see directly how these people are not who they claim to be. And the Bible warns us about it. And again, this is the verse that all Christians always ignore, because they don't like to look at the book of Revelation. And they think that people who study the book of Revelation are just crazy Armageddon, end of the world type people. And that's not the truth. The truth is that you could connect the book of Revelation with many prophecies in the Bible, like the book of Daniel, etc. And in Revelation chapter 2, verse 9, I know the blasphemy of them which say they are you know what, and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. And that's exactly who they are. So the world government is working hand in hand underneath them. They're the ones who are in control. Who owns the land over there that we're supposedly fighting for? Who owns it, right? Who controls it? The Rothschilds do. They're the ones who own it. That's what the Balfour Declaration goes back to. What is there on paper, their religious belief? What do they believe in? Oh, right. They believe exactly in this and the enslavement of humanity. So remember, when these laws are in place, that they're above these laws. Okay, so when you hear people mention the no-eye laws, because you're going to hear these things quietly slipped in. That's the World Economic Forum, like I said, with animal cruelty, eating animals, right? What do you think this big push is for? They're conditioning people to accept the Noahide laws. They're allowing theft and murder and all these things to run amok on purpose, so that when they implement the Noahide laws, people will be so worn out from all the war, all the chaos, all the robberies, all the uneasiness, that this will be the perfect way to bring in peace. And it will not be peace. It will not be peace for us Christians. And many Christians will fall for this. It's a great deception. And in the video over on the website, I'm going to put up showing you a lot of these things, and specifically stuff from some of Ted Pike's documentaries over the years. You will see it pieced together perfectly, so you have a better understanding of it. Of course, I can't piece it together here because it's hate speech, right? Because you're protected underneath it. Because if people knew who the enemy was, then they'd realize, okay, maybe this needs to be stopped. And you can even see them, how unhinged they are on the news covering this, and how unhinged the people are of this specific dissent. It's unbelievable. Like, they can't even keep their cool, where they're trying to make themselves into victims. They're so angry if anybody else out there says that the other side is victims, even children. They get so angry. People should be seeing this. They're revealing their fruits to everybody, and people are looking past it because they keep hearing trigger terms like that day of 11, the 11th day of the month of September. And they hear trigger words like, oh, women are having their heads cut off. Babies are being put in incubator. Babies are being lit on fire. They're hearing this stuff, so they're looking past the behavior of these people and what animals they're acting like. They're saying the other side's savages when they're the savages. They're the ones responsible. And again, they haven't been victims over the years because people didn't like the way they looked. They've been victims over the years. In some cases, they really haven't been. They've convinced you that they are, like in this situation and a few others. But they've been run out of everywhere they've ever been. That's why they had to make themselves into victims, so that people couldn't see through that wall of victimness and realize who they are and what they're doing and what they're responsible for. So now we're going to be cloaked in this massive veil they're going to put around everybody of, oh, we're great people and we didn't do anything wrong. Everyone's always picking on us, right? You see how that whole narrative sides in with what they've done to our society, where everyone thinks that they're a victim based on gender, based on their preference in the bedroom. And they're all going to side with them, not realizing what barbarians they are. That this stuff goes back to the ancient Egyptian teachings, the Babylonian teachings. This goes back to Baal worship for Christians out there who should be awake to this stuff, right? I mean, all the teachings in there, talking about grown men being able to do this stuff with young kids as young as 3, which I've covered in the past. Christians who worship Jesus are idolaters, right? The Bagel may lie to perjure, to condemn a Christian. These are all things in their book that they go to a specific place and read. Do our books say anything like that? But we get thrown under the bus constantly because of what God did at Sodom and Gomorrah. These people are flat out saying, well, we can do this, they can't do that. Sound a lot like the Democratic Party? Sound a lot like how they're grooming a whole side of a political aisle to believe in these laws and want these laws. And then who's the enemy in the eyes of all the teachings that they have? We are. Christians are. Jesus is the enemy. So you look at the stuff going on there, it's a precursor of what's going to happen to us. And God forewarns all of this, and people need to be aware of it. I'll go into more detail on the website about the Noahide laws. I'm sure this will probably get a strike. But you can go all the way back even to 1996, and you could look at things like Bill number 1274. That's Bill number 1274, which included HB 1274, the death penalty, guillotine provisions. What do you think that's about? Who do you think that's for? Did anybody know that that's actually allowed? That there could be these types of congressional killings? Well, who do you think it's set up for? Oh, they're going to tell you, well, it's set up for some type of a terrorist. Well, don't you see how the narrative is twisted now? And suddenly in this country, Christians are the terrorists? They haven't said it openly yet, but look at all the things that they're looking at and saying are, oh, these are acts of terror. Oh, these are extreme right. Everything that ties in with Christians and our beliefs. They're persecuting all religions that aren't theirs. These people who are getting attacked are first on the list, and we're next. And this isn't an unprovoked thing over there. This whole narrative is twisted. You can go and see the video I did on the website for people who still subbed or are subbed to the website. The video I did on the compilation of them constantly using the same trigger terms. I highly recommend you join the website and watch that video, because they even go as far as rolling out, they have their news anchors covering this stuff. They have their political people and military people covering this stuff using those trigger terms. They actually roll out parents who were on TV 2 days after their 20-year-old kid is slaughtered, and they're using the same talking points. This is our 11th day of September too. This is now our 11th day. Oh, your kid was killed 2 days ago. Oh, you just happen to be repeating the same thing that the mainstream media is repeating on the local news or, on some of these major news shows on NBC, et cetera, et cetera. And you're not crying. All the parents are thinking about that. They're thinking about, oh, this is our 11th day of that month. They're not thinking and grieving over their child that was just supposedly went to a concert with no stress in the world and was annihilated. And you want to go on TV and you want to push that because it's a script. We always talk about the script, right? Wag the dog, the script that we see pushed down our throats. Who controls Hollywood? Who writes the script for that? They're writing the same script on a global stage. One of the funniest things I constantly talk about is how we supposedly live under these laws called war crimes, right? Should be enough to wake people up to how the war is all staged and propaganda, okay? Let's listen. War crime, right? You ever hear that phrase? I'm sure you heard it. So a war crime would be if NBC News, which they are, was out in the middle of what's going on over in Bagelville, and they went up to them and shot them. Would that be the concern of these militant groups? Or wouldn't you think they'd want to send a message to everybody and do something to these people? Why do you think they have war crimes in place? So that they can make sure that they have why does anybody need to see what's going on there? Why do we need to hear about it? You need to hear about it because they need to brainwash you into sympathy for this specific place. And these news reporters aren't sweating. They aren't carrying guns. They aren't fearful because they know it's all a ruse. Okay? They know it's not real. It's scripted. They know where to be. I'm not saying there's not casualties. I'm not saying that there's not. Okay? Because the militaries are working together against the civilians, like I've been saying over and over again on my channels. Here in America, all the countries, they're working against the civilians. They weren't elected. They weren't put in these positions. So you hear these people and they're like, the reason that we're reporting here is because we need to get this information out. Why do you need to get the information out? Do we need to know that here in America? Are we supposed to only care about America? Now we have to suddenly care about everything else going on in every other country? Well, you have to know because they can't usher in a new world order unless you know about everything going on all around the world that ties into us becoming globalists, right? Then on top of it, wouldn't you say these people would be afraid? Oh, they're so brave, the dorky news anchors. They're standing over in the streets. How come nothing happens to them? I wouldn't be surprised, by the way, if there is a false flag. And if you see one happen because, to one of these people and they call it a war crime, that means that they're still listening to me and following me around. Okay? Because I don't know, they wouldn't have a need to put out there unless 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 people were hearing people actually using common sense and saying, why are these people, if they're in war and they're militants, they're obeying war crimes? Huh? Doesn't sound like they're obeying it with what they're doing to kids and children. So why aren't they doing it to the mainstream media? Oh, right, because they need the mainstream media. Because they're the ones who propagate this. They're the ones who plant the seeds. They're the ones who brainwash everybody. So they're protected, of course. You would think if you were a militant group, before you went after a child or somebody else, and you wanted to send a message to America, that you go after our American news anchors who push all these disgusting lib agendas who these people supposedly can't stand and can't stand us and can't stand the lib agendas. Like the LG agenda, they every day are telling us that we need to cross-dress, etc. So you'd think they would target them immediately. No, they're safe because they don't want to be arrested for war crimes. That's because they need them for the propaganda machine, because that's all this is. It's a stage show, and they're going to usher in these Noahide laws. So keep an eye on these stories. I have other videos going up on this here and on the website. The ritual done at the One Trade Center, I'm going to cover. People need to see. So keep an eye on all of these things. But, it's Friday the 13th, okay? So we know what today is, and we also know that they've called on these specific events to happen. So look out for false flags. I said that yesterday. I'll say it again today. Look out for psyops, whether it's college campuses or in cities. There's going to be protests, demonstrations, et cetera, et cetera. Watch how they herd people, because they're going to herd people in your life, and they're going to use the talking points I've been talking about on the website. Bat them down as soon as they use them on you, and show them and tell them that they're under mind control by showing them the pattern that they don't even realize they're seeing with what these talking heads are saying. It's worse than the Sinclair group telling us about a threat to our democracy. It's worse. It's worse. And the people who are telling you all this stuff are the people behind it. And ironically, using that, again, that date of the 11th month of September, it's the same people who are responsible for it who are comparing the two events. It's unbelievable, the deception that's going on. But I'm here to try to help people see through it. I thank you for being here. Hope this video helped in some way. I'm sorry that I can't show stuff on the screen, but that's the way it is. That's the way it is. But at least I can try to get the message out. You can connect the dots, and I'll make more code words over time. I'll probably put a list up on the website, because this is what we're headed towards now, especially if these people continue to continue to put new things in place where you can't question what's going on over there. That's just going to lead to more restrictions here in America, and everyone's going to agree to it. They're going to be like, that violates free speech, because disinformation. All right, everything's disinformation that ties into the occult, to sacrifice, to libels, all these things that I've covered that these specific people teach and do. Pretty incredible. I thank you for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always, and your families.